Hey, the Sporting Tribune today continues. Consider the episode our NHL playoff preview. Just got finished talking about some Kings hockey, but now we return to my city here in Las Vegas, joined by our guy, Steve Carp, who's joined us plenty of times on the podcast, as he's going to give us the preview for the Vegas Golden Knights. Game one tomorrow night. It'll be the King, or excuse me, let me redo that. Jesus.
You jumped
Game,
ahead of yourself by a series.
right? Game one, it'll be the Knights taking on the Jets here at T-Mobile Arena. I believe it is a 6:30 puck drop. But Steve, let's start off before we get into this series. Obviously, Bruce Cassidy, the new hire, the new coach this season. This team had a lot of expectations last year. They disappointed. This year, they win the West. They're headed into the playoffs. What have you made of the regular season?
Well, as I wrote in the Sporting Tribune on Saturday, he won't win the Jack Adams Award for being coach of the year in the NHL. That'll go to Jim Montgomery of the Bruins. But Bruce Cassidy has exceeded all expectations. He was brought in here to kind of restore order, if you will, and kind of get the guys in the room feeling good about themselves again, and he did both. And they had a lot of injury issues, as we'll get into. And they found a way to overcome them. And I think management deserves some credit for finding a way to pick up some pieces along the season and keep going. I mean, there was a time where we weren't quite sure they were even going to make the playoffs for a little bit there. Things were looking so grim. But they all bought into Cassidy's system. They managed to overcome all the injuries. They're getting most of their key pieces back, and they're playing good hockey. I think they are in playoff mode as we speak, and I think they're ready to make what they hope will be as deep a run as you can make and try to win 16 games and carry home the cup.
In terms of the regular season, is the storyline of Bruce Cassidy coming in here and doing what he's done this season kind of the overarching thing? That is kind of, I guess, the storyline of the regular season, or is it something else in your view?
Well, the buy-in from the players is the biggest thing. Now, obviously, Cassidy and his staff set the tone because he had them wanting to play a certain way, and they all bought in. See, if you don't trust the coach and the coach doesn't trust the players, you're not going to win. It's that simple. And I think last year under Pete DeBoer, I don't think that trust was always there with everybody in the room. And I think, the additions they've made have really paid off. Ivan Barbashev, who was picked up before the trade deadline, Jonathan Quick, who was picked up right almost at the deadline, Teddy Bluger. These guys came in and make immediate contributions. All right. They weren't standouts, but they all contributed. And now that they're getting Mark Stone back, they got Shea Theodore back, Jack Eichel's ready to go, Zach Whitecloud's going to play. They've got some continuity that they haven't had in quite a while, Adrian. And I think that's what makes them dangerous.
And this series against the Jets again will start on Tuesday. This will be the second time in 6 seasons that these two teams are facing each other. Of course, the last time, 2018, in the Western Conference Finals. And you talk about players returning and the injuries that have happened this season. Over the weekend, Golden Knights announced that Laurent is starting at goalie. What do you make as he gets to start his first playoff game ever against his former team?
Well, he has one game's experience in the playoffs. That was with Edmonton, like 8 years ago. So it's been a while between starts for LB. He has played really well since he was called up from Henderson. And I think he has earned the right to start game one, even though Jonathan Quick is vastly more experienced. He's played, Quick's played 92 playoff games. He's got 2 Stanley Cup rings. But it's nice to have him as a fallback option if Laurent Brossoit gets hurt or he falters or whatever, or if Cassie just feels the team needs a jump start. That said, the system that this team plays, whoever the goalie is, it really is goalie friendly. They keep everything to the perimeter. They don't give up high danger chances too often or odd man rushes. And if you're a goaltender, your job is simply track the puck, try to limit your rebounds, and if you do give up rebounds, make sure you're controlling them to where your guys are getting the puck on their stick first.
And when I look at some of the odds for this, right now I'm on The Athletic, and I see that the Golden Knights are favored 54% to 46%. This is the slimmest margin out of any series in the playoffs, either conference. And, you know, for some reason, the one thing I enjoy about the NBA playoffs, for example, is that because of the 7 games, very rarely do you see an upset. The better team usually wins. But for some reason in hockey, the 1-8 isn't that big of a deal. The points leaders at the end of the season, the Columbus Blue Jackets beating the Lightning. Like, these things happen more often than not.
The Kings beat San Jose.
Exactly.
When they were an 8th seed.
So when it comes to this series and how tight a lot of people are predicting it, and like I said, 54% to 46, that is a slim margin. How do you see this series playing out?
I think Winnipeg is vastly underrated. They've got really good players. They've got a very good goaltender. Connor Hellebuck is, if he's on, he can steal a game or two. And as you know, Adrian, in the playoffs, you better have good goaltending if you think you're going to go a long way, especially if you want to win it. You know, when Washington beat Vegas in 2018 to win their first Stanley Cup, Braden Holtby was exceptional. And remember, he didn't start the playoffs. They started Philip Grubauer against Columbus. They were down 0-2. And Barry Trotz says, you know what? We're going to make a change in goal. Puts Braden Holtby in. He took him the distance. So if you're Winnipeg, you know that you have a challenge on your hands because Vegas is so balanced. Their defensemen are very mobile. They're great at moving the puck out of their end. And their goalie's playing well, a guy they know very well from when he was with them, you know, in Brossoit. So on paper, it looks like it's lopsided in the Knights' favor, especially when you look at the points differential between them and the Jets. But the Jets have played fairly well. They always seem to find a way to stay in games. And Rick Bowness has done a nice job. You know, we talk about Bruce Cassidy having his guys buy in to his system. Well, Rick Bowness went through that very thing in Winnipeg this year. It took him a while and his players a while to get comfortable with each other. And now that they are on the same page, the Jets are a pretty good hockey team. So don't discount their chances of springing the upset. Vegas deserves to be the favorite. Winnipeg deserves credit for being in this series. It's not going to be easy. I do think Vegas will prevail because getting Mark Stone back, getting Shea Theodore back, having Jack Eichel, having Zach Whitecloud, when you have all your defensemen and you don't have to go ahead and make changes and bring guys up from the minors or guys who've been sitting in the press box, that's big. And Bruce Cassidy said he's going to play Stone with Chandler Stevenson, who they're very familiar with, each of them. They play together a lot. And they're playing Michael Amadio, who's wielding a really hot stick right now. And they're going to be a third line. Think about that for a moment. Mark Stone's going to play on the third line with Chandler Stevenson. These guys were playing first line minutes earlier this year. All right. So it just shows you the kind of depth that Vegas has up front. He's going to roll 4 lines. And he said today, he's not worried about matchups. He'll throw his fourth line out against Scheifele and Wheeler, and he's not too concerned about it. Even when they go to Winnipeg and Bonus gets the last change for games 3 and 4. Cassidy's got a lot of confidence in his group right now.
And to just go a little bit more in depth with Mark Stone, you know, it's funny, over the weekend, Milwaukee Bucks fans were very concerned because of the hard fall Giannis had and the back pains that he was suffering through. And when you talk about Mark Stone, you're talking about coming back from 2 back surgeries. I don't think it's realistic for people to expect Mark Stone to just be inserted and for him to be at 100%. So if he's not going to be at full strength, how much of a concern, whether it's with this series or the dreams of the Golden Knights to win the cup, how concerned are you that he's not going to be at full strength, or is it, he can ease himself in with how great this team's been?
Right. That you just hit it. You just hit it. He's not asking to be carrying the heavy lifting for this team. So he's just going to be a contributor. Okay. He's not driving the bus, but he's also not a passenger. So he's almost like a co-pilot, if you will. So his minutes, there's no limitations on how much he plays. Cassidy said today he's going to be smart about it. So that means he probably won't kill penalties in the first couple of games. But he'll probably take a shift or two on the power play. And he'll play his regular shift, and they'll see how it goes. We'll see how he's doing. He's only had contact in the last day or so for the first time in, 3 months till he got hurt in January. So they know what he's capable of doing. He knows his limitations. He knows his body. He says he feels fine. He knows there's probably a little bit of rust in terms of timing and rhythm and just getting a feel for playing again. But I'd rather have Mark Stone at whatever percent you want to put him at than not have him. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, 100%. And I guess before I get to your big keys for these Golden Knights, not just in this series, but to make a big Stanley Cup push, my last question specific to a player is going to be this. Jack Eichel might be flying under the radar, which seems kind of amazing to say. After all these years in the NHL, this will be his first time in the postseason.
Yeah.
How much pressure do you think he's feeling, or is he feeling any pressure? Because it seems like it's not being talked about a lot. But to me, this is a big deal. A superstar finally getting to take part in what he's always wanted to do, which is to get into the postseason and try to win a cup.
We asked him that Saturday when the team practiced at T-Mobile Arena after their team picture day. He's not feeling pressure. He's excited. He's watched the playoffs, so he knows the intensity goes up. And if he needs advice, Phil Kessel dresses right next door to him. Kessel's got a couple of rings. He can look down the room and talk to Barbashev, who's got a ring with St. Louis. He can talk to Alec Martinez, who's got 2 rings with the Kings, or talk to Quick, or talk to the guys like Riley Smith and Marchessault and Shea Theodore and Brady McNabb, who were on that first Golden Knights team that went to the finals and came up short against Washington. So there's no lack of people he could seek out. I think Eichel understands that for him, this is a special time. He's never been in it, even going back to like his junior days, okay? So this is going to be a fun time for him. I think you're going to see him at his best. I think the Jets are going to try to take away some of the things he likes to do, which is crowd him, don't give him space to operate where he can see the ice and make those great passes he's known for, and force him when he shoots to shoot from the perimeter or even further away to give Hellebuck a chance to slow him down.
And, Eichel's been really, really good this season, even missing almost a month of the season in December and January.
Right.
And with all that said, and you brought up the pieces that are coming back, some of the injuries that the Golden Knights are facing, for this team to really make a deep playoff push, what are some of the biggest keys for fans and for listeners to look out for?
Well, it starts in net. You've got to get good play from whoever's in goal. Whether it's Brossoit, whether it's Jonathan Quick, if Hayden Hill is put in the lineup, or if Logan Thompson somehow comes back, which is looking less and less likely with each passing day. It starts there. You've got to get good goaltending. You may have to steal a game here or there, all right? But you want to play good, smart hockey. You want to be aware of not taking bad penalties, whether it's a too many men on the ice or delay a game where you're causing your own grief, if you will. If you play smart and when you take your penalties, make them count. Okay. And again, do what they've been doing. Don't give up odd man rushes. Play as a 5-man unit like they've been doing. Get out of your own end, attack as a group, go to the other team's net, get rebounds, get ugly goals. The playoffs not about beauty. It's about grit. It's about determination. It's about who wants it more. And yeah, you're going to get banged up. You're going to have some tough nights where you're just not feeling it. And, if games go to overtime, this is none of this 3-on-3 nonsense. You're playing 5-on-5, sudden death, first team scores wins, and there's a lot of pressure in overtime. But Vegas has a veteran group, but enough young legs to carry it through should it have to play OT. So I just think if you're the Knights, do what you've been doing, make somebody beat you, whether it's Connor Hellebuck in goal or if Winnipeg can find a way to pierce that defensive shell that they throw in front of their goalie. I mean, it's a different kind of game. And I think the Knights have been transitioning to it for the last 3 weeks or so. You saw it against the Kings. You saw it against Seattle last week, where they just shut down the Kraken's top forwards. Matty Beniers, who's a great young player for the Kraken, he was virtually invisible against Vegas. And if they can neutralize like Scheifele and Wheeler and somebody else, Kyle Connor, Winnipeg's top guns, Ehlers, you keep those guys in check for the most part and don't let them dominate, you're going to win the series.
Coach Steve appeared in the middle of that answer, which is why I was smiling for those watching on YouTube. You got me excited. You got me ready to go for this game tomorrow. And before you go, you said, who wants it more? Well, for everyone listening, if you want more coverage of the Golden Knights, of course, Steve, Willie, Kev, me will have you covered. The Sporting Tribune. Be sure to follow Steve on Twitter at SteveCarp56, correct?
That's it.
Yeah, he'll be at all the games. And
yep.
Did I do the plug for you? Anything else you want to add in there?
No, look, this is going to be, there's some unbelievable first round matchups in these playoffs. The Rangers Devils it's just going to be a war. The Kings Oilers rematch of last year. Is LA good enough to, become, a second round team? You've got Marc-Andre Fleury in Minnesota against Dallas and Pete DeBoer. We all know about that relationship. And of course, you've got Toronto trying to, exercise its demons. They're playing Tampa Bay. They played each other last week. It was just a war out there. So we've got some great first round matchups, and it starts tonight, and the Golden Knights start on Tuesday. T-Mobile's going to be rocking when they get to Winnipeg. It's going to be crazy up there. I've covered the playoffs up there. And Adrian, that is a loud building, and those fans are into it. They'll be in their whiteout mode. Everyone wears white to the Winnipeg playoff games, going back to the old days when they made the playoffs and they would have a whiteout in the old Winnipeg arena. So we're going to have some fun. And I'm looking forward to what happens. And maybe, just maybe we'll see the Knights and the Kings in round 2. And, what will be a very contentious series, especially between the two fan bases.
No, 100%. I do want to add one more thing. Of course, we got our podcast. Of course, we got your writing and the whole team's writing. But also something that we've done the past few weeks. If you guys haven't been following us on Twitter at the Sporting Trib, Steve, Willie, doing a lot of post-game videos from T-Mobile, kind of wrapping up each game. So be sure to check that out too. Full throttle, audio, visual, reading, all of it. We got your coverage here, making sure your Golden Knights playoff coverage is as best as it can be. And as always, Steve, I think it's your 4th or 5th time. Who cares? We'll stop counting. The door's always open for you to join us. And I'm sure we'll be talking to you here soon enough if the Golden Knights do what they're supposed to do and make a deep playoff push. So thank you so much for joining us at the start of the playoffs.
Anytime, Adrian. Always good to be with you.
Of course. We'll talk wrestling next time.
Okay. You got it.